Hello everyone and welcome to another custom figure Redux, and today we're going to be looking at an updated version of my Cloister Wraith / slider figure from the Series 9 finale episode Hell Bent. So I'm going to put a picture of my original custom up on screen first of all. So overall this was just your sort of standard Time Lord figure, which I basically dirtied down a bit. I made some sort of cuts and nicks in the collar, which I painted gold. I replaced the arms from the standard ones to ones from a Rassilon figure, again just to give them that bit more sort of long, sort of cuffed, sleeved look. Dirtied the thing overall, and the head was from a holographic 10th Doctor, which I added some sort of glitchy patterns on there along with the hands, and sculpted on a skull cap, and that was pretty much it. Very pleased with it at the time, still very pleased with it, but like many customs, I've sort of progressed in my skills over the years to produce this one that you see in front of you here. So overall, it is still your same base figure. I've only made a few sort of minor changes here and there. It's largely aesthetic changes with the exception of the head, which we'll come back to in a minute. So the figure itself, again, still the base figure, but I've given it a bit of a black wash, which I want to give a big shout out to Rob over at Mondas Productions for putting me onto this black wash. It really does sort of lift, you know, it does lift details and things on figures. So I gave it that little bit of a black wash just to make it look that little bit more scuffed up. I also painted a bit of gold trim around the sleeves, and as you can see, I've done some sort of gold patterns on the front of the robe to sort of emulate that slight Gallifreyan sort of detailing on there. I have removed the hands because I think, with the exception of one shot, the sliders, Cloister Wraiths, don't actually seem to have hands, and I think there's one shot where one of the actors' hands does appear as it's moving along, and I think it is sort of a bit of a an error, as it were, because I don't think they were ever supposed to have hands, but I also think it looks better without the hands. And although you can't see it from this angle, I've painted the inside of the sleeves sort of black to, you know, make it look sort of like hollow robes and things like that. The headdress, again, I haven't really done anything here hugely different to it. The main difference I'd made was on and around the mid sections of the actual robe, and again the headdress as it comes around the back, sort of the bits of banding that were in the sort of middle, I have used a very sharp craft blade to trim those off to make it sort of look a little bit more smooth, as it does in the episode, with only just the sort of outside trim on it. And then I have again painted it gold and given it another wash of black to really sort of make it stand out and look very good. But obviously it's the head sculpt is the bit that I'm really pleased with, so I will do a quick close-up on that now for you all to get a better look at it. So here we have a close-up on the head sculpt. So this is actually a head sculpt of Mr. Quill from Fury from the Deep, which was made by eBank Studios over on Etsy. I wanted to, originally I said I had the 10th Doctor holographic head, which had that sort of slightly transparent look to it with the glitches on it, but it never had that sort of screaming face, and I looked through sort of various ideas to do. I thought about using a Weeping Angel head, and then I even thought about using the head of, I cannot remember the character's name, but he was the sort of one of the vampires from Vampires in Venice, which we got a figure of. But again, although he had that sort of slightly screaming face, it was more sort of a menacing, hissing scowl rather than a proper scream. And there's also the fact as well that the faces on the sliders, they do sort of seem to have 2 or 3 faces as they sort of glitch between them, as if it's like, you know, they're I think it's intended to be their sort of different incarnations. So it was sort of difficult to do, and initially as well I also considered just using so I got a standard Time Lord head that came with the figure, and then I sort of smoothed off the face detailing and put a like a sticker of the actual face from the episode. And although it looked good head on, when it sort of went in profile, you could tell that it was stuck on. And again, when you see the sliders in profile, they do actually have a sort of actual sort of profile face to them. So it just looked a bit odd doing it that way. And then I sort of remembered that eBank Studios had done this Mr. Quill head, so I thought that would be perfect to use. And I have to say, it has come out really, really well. The paint application has come out much better than I honestly thought it was going to, because like I said, as you see it from sort of the profile like that, and you've got that sort of slightly dark-esque, you know, shadow sort of look to it, and then obviously from the other side, he's got the actual sort of screaming face. So what I did for this was I got the head, obviously primed it, and then I gave it a coat of gloss black Tamiya paint, again just to give it that sort of slight shadowy look. I also sculpted on the headdress, as you can see, because obviously it needed the Time Lord headdress, so that was literally just sculpted on with Milliput, which I'm pretty pleased that came out. That side's a little bit further back than that side, but I still think it works. And then the actual face itself, I went through several stages of how to do this, because it is a bit of a difficult thing to emulate on a figure. And in the end, I sort of did it so I had an overall darkish blue coat, which I then sort of went over and I highlighted a little bit more into a lighter blue, and then I used slightly darker blue to do some more of the defined details like the eyebrows and the you know, the actual eyes and things like that, and then went back to the lighter blue to do things like the irises and the teeth. And then I went back to the darker blue to put in shadows and things like that around the base of the eyes and inside the mouth. And it was one of those things, at the time I did it, I was slightly worried it wasn't going to come out as well as I thought it would. But it really has worked out well. And then to, again, just give it that slight more holographic shine, I just gave it, once it had fully dried, I gave it a quick and light coat of PVA glue just to really sort of make it, again, shine and stand out. And I as much as I'm, you know, try not to blow my own trumpet too much, I really am proud and pleased with the results of this, because it has come out so much, not only so much better than I thought it was going to, but so much better than my original one, and much closer to what I originally intended to achieve when I did this custom all that way back. You know, it really is a good standout figure. And I think, you know, the Mr. Quill head works really well, but I've shown this to a few sort of, a few other, you know, custom makers, and obviously I've shown this to eBank Studios themselves, and I think the seed seems to have certainly been sown for a Cloister Wraith head, so it would be interesting if they do one of those in future, or anybody does one of those in future. I'm tempted to pick one up to put on the proper head, but at the same time I'm so pleased with what I've done on this one that I kind of don't want to update it. I want this to sort of stay as it is. You know, it really has come out really, really well, and I'm really pleased. Again, I have to say big thank you to Rob over at Mondas Productions for putting me on to the black wash, because the collar really does just stand out. You know, it really, where I've trimmed it down especially, you can sort of see as you get closer up, you can see the areas around here where I've trimmed off the original trim, but because I've sort of done it slightly roughly, it's actually left the black wash giving it a slightly sort of battered look, which actually adds to the figure. So I'm really pleased with how that's come out and how that's come together. But that brings to a close another custom figure Redux, as always. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot, and be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm still doing my figure animation, but I've had a bit of a reshuffle with my tiers and things like that, so for the meantime, the smallest donation is the only one available, but for the smallest donation you can get your name at the end of my videos, and all donations are really greatly received in helping keeping this channel going. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.